Hello, my name is Jason, and today I'm going to show you how to change a battery in a 2001 Ford F-150. First off, the thing you're going to need is a 3/8 drive ratchet, and you're also going to need an extension bar for 3/8 drive, possibly two depending on how long you need one, and then an 8mm socket for the top for the hold down. And you're also going to need a handy dandy can of PB Blaster and a little bit of a water bottle. You're also going to need a battery brush. You're going to need, I work at Advanced Auto Parts, and I always package the battery protection kit with the battery when I sell batteries. And it is these little cotton washers that help with preventing corrosion, and this little packet of jelly that's good to put on the threads to prevent it from seizing up and getting corroded and rusted. I also have a new hold down kit, which is this little rubber piece and a bolt for it. First off, we'll look at the condition of the clamps on top here. If they look a little bit rusty, you're going to want to use this PB Blaster on them. And also the hold down there, it looks a little bit crappy, but we're going to spray some PB Blaster on there first. I'm going to set that for a minute, a few seconds at least. And you're going to have some water here. And you're going to want to just pour a little bit on that PB Blaster there to wash it off. And hopefully that should loosen it up some. First off, you always want to take off the hold down kit first, because sometimes it can be very difficult. The way I always think of things when it comes to turning is counterclockwise is to loosen and clockwise is to tighten typically. And loosen that up. Get it out. It's pretty dang tight down there. Pretty deep down there, but that's good, because they typically want it to last for a long time, and I'm sure this hasn't been changed, the clamping, the hold down kit, in 19 years since it was made. Okay, so now I got this bolt out finally. I'm going to take this off and this rubber stopper. And it doesn't hurt too much. Spray a little bit of PB Blaster in that thread hole to help with the threads. Now the next step you're going to do is you're going to remove these extensions just so you're down to this small little 8mm socket. Now with this, you're going to end up getting on. You always want to do the negative first. That way there isn't any power going to the battery when you touch the positive. And you don't want to take it all the way off, you just want to loosen it so that you can actually take the clamp off. And wiggle a little bit, see if we can get it done. Another tool that's good to have is a decent sized flathead screwdriver, because once you get these little sockets off, these little nuts off on the negative terminal, it's going to end up being a little bit tight sometimes, and I just end up, when you get the negative off, you always want to move it over the side so that it doesn't touch any kind of metal. And then for the positive, I'm going to loosen this one too. And this one can be difficult as well. Usually these are pretty tight on there. You want to use a flathead. This one's a bit easier, but you want to use a flathead and just jam it under there and pry it off. Usually you can do it without messing up too bad. And if it gets a little bit bent, you can always just bend it back in place once you tighten it down. And this little piece right here is actually a magnet bar to help with making sure there's no erratic currents or electricity being lost. now I got this battery loose, I'm going to be lifting it up and setting it aside. And then I got this nice new battery from Advanced Auto Parts. They have a die-hard line, which is what Sears is known for. This one's a bit bigger because that battery that was in there was actually kind of the wrong one, but it was able to still work. Now set this down. Looks to be good. It fits perfectly. Before there was actually a wooden board and some bungee cords holding it in. You want to take this little plastic piece off. Usually they'll have a new one with it. Now this battery is a 65 part number, 650 cold cranking amps. Basically, that's the amount of cranking amps that it has when it's 0 degrees out. Basically, if you have to be in a situation of it being freezing cold, this battery will be dependable at 650 cold cranking amps. The next thing you're going to want to do is get your new hold down kit. I happen to get this. It's a Dorman brand, and it's a little hold down kit. It's a rubber stopper here. I want to fit that down there, and also this rod here helps out having a bit of an extension there because it's very tight. I've dealt with many vehicles where it's very tight quarters. When you take off these clamps as well, you always want to make sure the negative is not anywhere near touching some metal, and the positive as well. Now for this next step, you got a little pack of jelly it's called the battery protection kit. Just got to find which the tear spot is. There it is. You want to get a little bit on your fingertip and just rub it on these threads. Just helps with preventing rust, any kind of damage that these threads can get done to over the time, because a lot of rust can happen in a long time. You want to get plenty of it on all these threads. Just gotta rub it all the way around, and then it should be good to go to be put in. Just gotta drop it down in there and find where the threading spot is, and just turn that till you get close enough, finger tight. Now you want to end up tightening this down. If you had some jelly on your fingers, just use a little shop towel or paper towel to wipe off your hands, because it can be a little bit sticky and make it hard to turn this bolt. You want to tighten that down. And then you don't need the extension bar more. This is just the ratchet with the 8mm socket. You want to always switch it over to tightening. Just tighten it. Gradually turn it clockwise until it gets tightened up. Hold that there. Hold it. Sometimes if you're having the whole ratchet turn without it clicking, just hold down wherever you're tightening and then turn it. Actually, this is still fingered loose, so I'm gonna say this a little bit faster. Okay, now it's starting to grip in. We'll actually need a little bit shorter version of the extension bar to help get you clear of these wires. Get that down there, make sure it's on, and just start wrenching on it. And I typically will tighten it all the way down until I pretty much can't move it easily. It's getting pretty tight. Should be good to go for the hold down. Now the next step is going to be some jelly here. You're going to want to rub it on the posts. Helps with preserving the lead on it, because lead is actually a very soft metal and it can get pretty tight and become warped if you're not careful. Just get all of it around all these. Your hands again. when it comes to this little tool. It's good to score up the post a little bit, make a little bit of surface scratching on it, so it can be good for the terminals you're putting on it. Clamps, I mean. And then these terminals are a little bit corroded on these clamps, so you want to just use this little wire brush, rub up on that metal to help get that corrosion off. Stick it in there and twist it around. It's actually pretty handy at getting all those grooves, nicks and crannies. And even though it looks a little bit surface rust, it's good as new. You want to keep that to the side as well, just so you always remember, never touch the metal to metal while you're changing the battery. Especially the negative is an important one, because the negative is what grounds the battery and makes it so that it's basically a good way of making the connection stay there, because you always need a negative for a positive current. When you have this situation, have the negative unattached or not touching any kind of metal, it helps with basically making it safe to touch the battery and get anything on it you want. Okay, so you got these little cotton washers. Black is always going to be negative, or it can be green. This helps with preventing corrosion to occur. I want to put these under these clamps here. You're going to put positive over the red spot. You're going to want to click your ratchet to tighten, and then just tighten it down. You don't want to go too tight, because if you tighten it too much, the lead on the post will actually warp to the tightness of the clamp. So you basically want to get it tight enough that you can't wiggle it at all, and you don't want to feel like you're tightening it so much that it's getting very hard to turn. Because if you have a warped post, it can be very difficult if you want to change the battery again, because that's going to make it so you have to basically pry off this clamp and to be able to get it out from have a little bit of lead lip here, and there's going to be a gap in there if you tighten it too hard. You want to put the next one on, the negative, which is always going to be black. You want to always keep your hands maybe more to the plastic, not the metal, because it's going to hear a little bit of spark in there. That's just because it's hooking up. You can use a head of this wrench here if you need to. I don't really need to, but if you're having trouble getting the clamp sitting down, just a little something hard, just knock it down some. And you're going to want to tighten this one too. And as it's getting tighter, you're gonna, again, feel a little bit of tightness there until you can't turn much more. And then you want to stop at that point. Now that the battery's installed, you should be good to go. And that is how you change a battery in a 2001 Ford F-150.